Every family has secrets. Ours wore smiles on Sundays and silence the rest of the week. For years, I mistook guilt for love and loyalty for peace. But the night I heard my mother say, "We never asked you to exist," I stopped being their daughter and started being their truth. I used to think love was something you could earn. If you just gave enough, forgave enough, smiled enough, eventually people would remember you're theirs. That's what I believed every Sunday at 4 p.m. when I drove 43 minutes to my parents' house, arms full of groceries they didn't ask for, but always expected. Mom would be sitting by the window, pretending to read, her lips pressed thin. Dad would be in a recliner, half watching sports, half watching me. I'd unload bags onto the counter, fill the fridge, wipe down their counters, and say things like, "I got your favorite coffee this time, Mom," or "Don't worry about the bills, Dad, I already handled them." They never said thank you. They said good. That was the rhythm of our family. I gave, they took, and silence filled the rest. It wasn't always this way. There was a time when I thought we were normal. Back when my mother braided my hair before school and whispered, "Make us proud." But that pride turned into pressure, and that pressure turned into distance. When I married Ethan, someone they never approved of, they stopped calling altogether. They said he wasn't good enough, that I was throwing my life away. But after Ava was born, they softened a little. Or maybe I just wanted to believe they had. So I did what I always did. I worked for their love. Every paycheck, I set aside money for their needs. Every holiday, I brought Ava, hoping her smile might mend what I couldn't. But behind every visit was a quiet ache. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and resentment. My mother never asked about my job. My father never asked about Ava's school. Still, I kept going because that's what daughters do when love feels like duty. One night, after tucking Ava in, Ethan asked, "Why do you still go there?" I didn't have an answer. Just a habit. Maybe fear. Maybe the kind of hope that doesn't know when to die. I said, "They're still my parents." He looked at me the way people look at someone holding a fire that keeps burning them, sad, helpless. "You know," he said, "sometimes family isn't blood. It's whoever doesn't make you beg for love." I brushed it off. But I remember the way he said it, like he already knew what was coming long before I did. It started small. It always does. A text from Mom asking for help with their water bill. Then the next week, their internet. Then the month after, Dad's new medication. Each message ended with a period. Never a thank you, never a heart. Just, "Need this by Thursday." I transfer the money, swallow my irritation, and tell myself, it's okay. They need me. But I was wrong. They didn't need me, they needed control. The first crack came on Ava's 7th birthday. We'd planned a little party, balloons, cupcakes, a rented bounce house. She wanted her grandparents there more than anything. I called my parents a week before. "Can you come on Saturday? Ava would love to see you." Mom's paws stretched. "We'll see. Your father's been tired." "Please," I said softly. "She misses you." "We'll see," she repeated. Saturday came. The backyard was loud with laughter, Ava's curls bouncing as she chased her friends. I kept glancing at the driveway, waiting for the car that never arrived. At 4 p.m., I texted Mom. "Are you coming?" She replied 2 hours later. "We forgot. Tell her happy birthday." When Ava asked, "Did they get lost?" I smiled the kind of smile that hurts your teeth and said, "Maybe next time." That night, after everyone left, I stood in the kitchen with frosting on my wrists, staring at my phone. That message sat there like a bruise I couldn't look away from. Ethan touched my shoulder. "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied. "I'm just tired." But it wasn't tiring. It was hollow. I didn't tell Ava what they said. I just kissed her forehead and whispered, "You're loved, baby. Always." That should have been the end of it. But betrayal never ends clean. It keeps unfolding like bad news. 2 weeks later, I stopped by my parents' house. I wanted to talk, to ask why. Maybe I was still looking for an apology that didn't exist. When I walked in, Mom was on the phone. She didn't notice me at first. Her voice was sharp, clipped. I told her she shouldn't have had that kid. She can barely take care of herself. My breath caught. She turned, startled.
Oh,
You're here early. I stared at her.
who were you talking about?
Her expression didn't change. Don't start. Mom, I said quietly. You were talking about me.
She sighed.
You always take everything so personally. I stood there, frozen. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was numb, the kind of numb that feels like drowning in slow motion. Dad came out from the living room annoyed. What's going on now? Nothing, Mom said quickly. Your daughter's being dramatic again. I left without another word. That night, I sat in the dark, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. I thought about every holiday I'd spent alone, every check I'd written, every time I defended them to people who said they didn't deserve me. And for the first time, I started to believe those people were right. It happened a month later, on an ordinary Tuesday. I got a call from their landlord, a polite man named Richard. Hi, is this Miss Hayes? Your parents mentioned you handle their payments. I used to, I said carefully.
Why?
They're 2 months behind. I just wanted to check in before issuing a notice. My stomach dropped. I'd already sent them money twice that month. When I called Mom, she answered cheerfully. Oh, hi. I was just about to text you. Why did your landlord call me? A pause. Then the tone, the one she used when she knew she was caught. Don't get dramatic, Penelope. Where's the money I sent you? Her voice hardened. You don't need to question me about what I do with it. Mom, I sent you money to pay rent. Are you behind? Silence. Then coldly, you've become so ungrateful. After everything we did for you. Everything. The words sliced deep. I've been paying your bills for years, I said quietly. You didn't do anything. I did. She hung up. I stood there, phone still pressed to my ear, shaking, not from anger, but realization. They weren't struggling. They were exploiting me. That night, I scrolled through my banking app, line after line of payments labeled transfer to parents. Thousands of dollars. Months of guilt disguised as generosity. Ethan came in, towel around his shoulders. You're still up? I turned the screen toward him. Look. He scanned the transactions, then looked at me with something like heartbreak. Pen, they're never going to love you the way you love them. I didn't answer, because part of me still wanted to believe he was wrong. The next morning, I got another text from Mom. Can you send $400 for groceries? We're low on food. I didn't reply. For the first time, I didn't move. I just stared at the message until it blurred. By evening, she sent another. You think you're better than us now? Don't forget where you came from. That line, that was the one that broke me. Where did I come from? I came from people who taught me silence is survival. From parents who punished emotion, mocked weakness, and used guilt as currency. And suddenly, I didn't want to come from them anymore. That night, I opened my laptop and started writing, not a text, not a message, but a letter. A confession. A truth I'd never said out loud. It began simply. I used to think love meant sacrifice. But I realize now, it was just a submission. It wasn't meant for them. It was meant for me. But sometimes, truth has a way of finding its audience. And soon it would. I didn't plan revenge. I just stopped pretending. That letter I wrote sat open on my laptop for days. I added little things, memories, moments, truths that used to hide behind excuses. I didn't name them outright. I just told the story of a daughter who mistook control for care. Ethan read it one night and said, You should post it. Not anger, just truth. I hesitated. They'd see it. Then let them. So I did. On a quiet Thursday morning, I poured my coffee, opened my laptop, and posted it on a small local parenting blog under my first name only. Title: When Family Costs Too Much. It wasn't explosive. It wasn't dramatic. It was just honest. How I'd paid for peace. How my parents confused dependence with devotion. How I learned that love without respect is just manipulation wearing church clothes. I didn't expect anyone to read it. But by evening, it had 1,000 views. By Friday, 10,000. By Monday, people were sharing it everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, even LinkedIn. The comments came fast. This hit too close. You just described my mother. Thank you for saying what so many of us can't. It wasn't about my parents anymore. It was about everyone who'd ever loved someone who weaponized guilt. But of course, they found out. On Tuesday, Mom called. Did you write that? She demanded. What if I did? You're making us look like monsters. I exhaled slowly. You don't need my help for that, she gasped. Do you have any idea what people are saying? Do you? I asked. They're talking about love, Mom. About healing. Not you. She hung up. A few hours later, my brother Ryan texted. Mom's losing it. But pen that story? It's brave. You read it?
Yeah.
And it's about time someone said it. That night, something inside me unclenched. For years, I'd try to make them look good. Now, their own actions were the mirror. 2 days later, someone messaged me from the blog's editorial team. We'd love to feature your piece in a collection about generational trauma. I stared at the email for a long time. Not because I wanted attention, because it meant the pain meant something. But the real poetic justice came quietly weeks later. Their church, yes, the same one they'd paraded me in front of as their disobedient daughter, shared a Sunday sermon titled, When Love Has Boundaries. The pastor quoted a passage from my essay, word for word. They didn't even realize. Ryan called, laughing. You've gone biblical, Pen. They're preaching your boundaries now. I smiled. Let them. Maybe they'll finally hear it. Meanwhile, Mom started calling distant relatives, spinning stories. She exaggerated. She's unstable. We didn't do anything. But truth doesn't need to shout. It just sits there, steady, undeniable. A few relatives called me quietly, apologetically. I didn't know it was that bad. I always wondered why you stopped coming around. It makes sense now. Each message was a small piece of light breaking through years of shadow. Then came the local news story. A journalist covering the viral essay wanted to do a piece on silent family estrangement in America. They never used my parents' names, but they didn't need to. Our town was small. Everyone connected the dots. I didn't watch the broadcast when it aired. Ethan did. He said the reporter ended with, sometimes love looks like staying. Sometimes it looks like leaving. But real love never demands silence. That line stayed with me, because for the first time, my silence wasn't compliance, it was consequence. My parents stopped calling after that.
Their social media went dark.
I heard from Ryan that they moved to another town and told people they wanted a fresh start.
Good.
They needed one. So did I. Spring has come. Ava turned 8. She was taller now, her laughter louder, unburdened. We spent Saturday mornings at the park, feeding ducks, drawing chalk hearts on the sidewalk. She asked less about my parents these days, though sometimes she'd say, Mommy, why don't we visit Grandma and Grandpa? I used to flinch. Now I simply said, because some people don't know how to love softly. One afternoon, we went out for ice cream, and an older woman recognized me. You're Penelope, right? The writer? I smiled nervously. Sometimes. She touched my arm. Your story saved my daughter. She finally left her abusive parents. Thank you. I barely managed a whisper. You're welcome. That night, I walked into Ava's room as she was drawing. On her paper were 3 stick figures holding hands. Her, me, and Ethan. Above us, in a shaky crayon heart, she'd written one word. Home. It was simple, imperfect, and completely whole. I realized then that my revenge wasn't in their downfall. It was in my peace. In the way Ava laughed freely now. On the way I could finally breathe without asking permission. In this way, the truth, once spoken, never goes back to sleep. The next morning, as sunlight pooled on the kitchen table, I opened my laptop and read the essay one last time. It had been translated into Spanish, French, Hindi, shared by women's groups, parenting forums, even college classes. 8 million views. For years, my parents made me feel small. But in telling my truth, I became larger than their silence ever was. I printed the essay and folded it into an envelope. On the front, I wrote, for Ava, when she's old enough to understand. Because one day, She'll need to know that walking away isn't weakness, it's survival. Before bed, I stood by her door and whispered, "You'll never have to earn love, baby. Not from me." She stirred, smiled in her sleep. And just like that, the ghosts went quiet. OUTRO for your YouTube video. If you felt the story, if it reminded you of your own battles with family, or the strength it takes to choose peace over pain, please hit like, share, and comment below. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. And don't forget, help us reach 5,000 subscribers on Betrayal Nation. Because sometimes the quietest revenge is living free.